this is Pastor Jeff, and we're here with the Weekend Extra. And this week we're talking about carrying each other's burdens. And as you were discussing this tonight, I was taking notes and writing things down. And one of the things that popped in my head right away was, what if you feel like you're a person that receives all the time, or reverse that and kind of like you're the person that's giving all the time, but it's not a matter of pride. It's just where you are at that time, and there was a need that came up.
You know, I actually think that's a great question, because I don't think that bearing each other's burdens, or the one another's is what we've been calling it, and I've been saying you need to be a giver and a receiver. I don't think that I think that rarely happens in balance, right? So I think what happens is there's times in my life where I am needy and I have to receive, and then there's times in my life where I'm blessed, or I have an abundance of energy or money or wisdom, whatever it is, and I'm able to give. And so I think as long as, we've been looking a lot at that idea of agape must be sincere, love must be sincere. As long as there's sincerity, and I mean that in a biblical sense, so like a purity, that I'm giving with no strings attached. I'm not giving to boost my own ego. I'm receiving because I'm in need. I'm not receiving because I want you to enable me. I think if that sincerity is there, then if I'm the one in need, I need to receive with humility and realize that God is answering my prayers and helping me. And if I'm the one that's giving, I need to give in humility and realize I'm being used by God to meet this person's needs. So in many ways, it has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with God and how He's wanting to love. So I remember one time a few years ago after my parents died, I was really struggling with grief, and had a very difficult time when my parents lived with me, and they died They died 53 weeks to the day apart. So we kind of got punched and then punched again, and so it was just hard. My kids lived with them every day, so it was just a big deal for us. And I remember being in need. I will always love and appreciate Bishop Joey Johnson. I called him, and pastor down the road, and he dropped everything and ran to me. But I was in need, and it took humility for me to admit I couldn't handle this. It was a big deal for me to ask for his help, and he gave it to me. But he was the total giver, and I was the total receiver. But there was a sincerity there. I viewed him as God loving me through Bishop Johnson, and he viewed himself as being an instrument of God's love into my life. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yes.
So I think that's a big part of it. Instead of I'm needy all the time, or I have to run to the rescue again. It's really what God wants to do, and wherever He has positioned me, I'm allowing that to happen. Because some needs are long term, right? I mean, people have medical issues, usually the financial issues, and it's hard because they're like, we're the needy family.
They feel that way.
They feel that way.
But they shouldn't feel that way because of their situation and
circumstance.
Right,
and it's hard to remember that it blesses other people to bless you.
Right.
And so when somebody else can help you, it fulfills them. Right. And then when I'm on the flip side of the coin, when I'm the giver, it's not my stuff; it's God's stuff that I'm giving. I'm a agent. I'm a delivery service. Is all that I am.
Right.
Right. So I think that's the idea, that you see what God is doing, and then you kind of play your position with it.
Right. I can say with having one hand that when you're right-handed, I really needed help. I had to.
Yeah, we had that surgery.
I had to call off the troops and say, okay, I really need some help right now.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize what you have until you're not able to use it effectively as you.
And as much as because you enjoy helping people, as much as you enjoy that, they enjoy doing that for you. It's fun to love somebody else.
At Christmas when they open gifts, I love to watch people open their gifts and the reactions more so than me opening mine or.
But if you never let somebody give to you,
Right.
they don't get to have that joy.
That joy.
And it's not our Americanism doesn't teach us that. It teaches us to be independent, and there's strengths to that, right? Even Paul says, "Carry your own load" in Galatians chapter 6. So there's strengths to that, but there's also weaknesses to it that I isolate myself,
Right.
from it. So, yeah.
The other question that came up to me is, you talk about carrying each other's burdens, and what if you are carrying a burden with someone, and it's just so heavy for you to help that person and for that person to deal with or carry alone? How would you, or where would you go for some help helping that person that you're trying to carry this burden with?
Yeah, I go right to the church. So I go right to community, right? And so a burden you can't carry alone, the family of God can carry together. And so think of burdens that we bear, like for other parts of the world, where we're, as a church, for instance, have to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars to help people have health care in Chad, Africa. Well, I don't have that kind of money. I can't write that check. But we together can do that. I think of the Restore Recovery Center that we're teaming up to build. And we as a church committed $1 million to help people come off of heroin addiction.
Right.
Well, I don't have $1 million, but we do. So when we get it, 1,005 families committed to that.
That's
so
wonderful.
when we surround, we can do that. And the same thing is true of less public ideas. For instance, when somebody has a health issue, it's not you cooking dinner for them every night. It's the meal train that shows up for 2 weeks. And it's a bunch of us like putting our arm around somebody and helping them. And that is the community of God. And I think that's really when Jesus says they'll know you're my disciples by your love for one another, that's it. It's you and your friend, but then it's like us and that person.
Right.
And it's to be one of the big hallmarks. So I'd run right to the church. I'd run right to community, and you surround it, and we all kind of pick it up, and we can do incredible things through it. And a lot of times it's long-term things that we can do and care for people through.
Right. And it was wonderful how at the end of service you had people that were there to pray for those that have this really heavy burden that they're carrying right now.
Yeah.
That they could go back and have someone actually pray with them.
Yeah, and that's like an example of that. It's like there's no reason to be alone. You're surrounded by people who want to love you. They need to know what's going on.
Right.
But we can do that instantly. And it's funny, when you feel alone and isolated, which pain and burdens does for us, it's amazing what that does to pray for someone or to tell somebody. It's amazing what that does in somebody's life. So the church can do that for each other, for sure.
That's great. Well, again, this is Alma and Pastor Jeff with the Weekend Extra, and hope you can make it to church this week to hear the wonderful sermon.